The alarm bells echoed through the deep space monitoring station like a heartbeat that wouldn't stop. Commander Elena Vasquez had been drinking her third cup of coffee when the computer started screaming. After 15 years of watching empty space, she never thought she'd hear those sounds. The message had been playing on repeat for 3 months. Every 12 hours, like clockwork, the same desperate voice reached across the void between stars. Elena pressed her headphones closer to her ears and listened again to the alien words that her team had finally managed to translate. "We are the Kethver of Zarian Prime. Our world dies around us. We have detected your ships in the nearby systems. Please, we need help. 12 million souls remain on our dying planet. We offer friendship and knowledge in exchange for passage to safety." Elena stared at the audio wave patterns dancing across her screen. 3 months ago, this would have been the greatest discovery in human history. Today, it felt like a death sentence waiting to happen. She picked up the secure phone that connected directly to Earth's military command. The call went through faster than she expected. "Admiral Chunwei here. Sir, this is Commander Vasquez. At Deep Space Station Omega, we have confirmed alien contact. The signal is real and the translation is accurate. They're asking for refugee assistance." The silence on the other end lasted so long that Elena wondered if the connection had dropped. When Admiral Chun finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of someone who had just realized that everything was about to change. "Assemble the Emergency Contact Committee. Full security protocols. I want every expert we have in Geneva within 24 hours." The committee meeting took place in a room that most people didn't know existed. Buried 3 levels beneath the World Security Building in Geneva, the conference room had been built for exactly this kind of situation. The walls were lined with screens showing star maps, alien signal data, and classified files that had been gathering dust for decades. Dr. Martinez sat at the far end of the table. Her laptop opened to pages of biological analysis that made Elena's stomach turn. The xenobiologist had been studying the limited data they had about the Kethver for weeks, and her findings painted a picture that no one wanted to see. "Let me be clear about what we're dealing with here," Dr. Martinez began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was saying. "The Kethver evolved on a world where everything wanted to kill everything else. Their gravity is 3 times ours. Their atmospheric pressure could crush a human in seconds, and these beings, they're not like us." She clicked to the next slide, showing a computer-generated image based on the biological data they had intercepted from the alien transmissions. "Look at this bone density. Look at these muscle attachments. A single Kethver could tear through steel with their bare hands. Their reaction time is 4 times faster than ours. Their vision extends into spectrums we can't even see. They are, by every definition we have, the perfect predators." The room fell silent. Elena watched the faces around the table, seeing fear replace curiosity in real time. General Harrison leaned forward in his chair. "How many did you say were left on their planet?" 12 million, Elena answered. 12 million super predators asking us to give them rides to safer worlds, the general said slowly. "Does anyone else see the problem here?" Dr. Martinez cleared her throat. "There's more. Our analysis of their cultural transmissions suggests they've moved beyond their predatory origins. Their art, their music, their literature, it all points to a species that has evolved socially and philosophically. They might not be the monsters their biology suggests?" "Might not be," Admiral Chun repeated. "That's not good enough when we're talking about the safety of human colonies across the galaxy." Elena found herself speaking before she realized it. "Sir, they're asking for help. Their planet is dying. These could be the last members of their species. Or they could be the first wave of an invasion force," General Harrison replied. "Think about it. What better way to infiltrate human space than to pose as refugees? We give them ships, we show them our colonies, we teach them our weaknesses. And then what happens when they decide they don't need us anymore?" The debate went on for hours. Scientists argued with military leaders. Diplomats clashed with security experts. Elena watched it all, Feeling like she was witnessing the moment when humanity's moral compass broke under the weight of fear, Dr. Martinez tried one more time. We don't have complete information. The responsible thing would be to send a diplomatic mission, learn more about them, establish proper contact protocols. The responsible thing, Admiral Chun said, standing up from his chair, is to protect humanity first and ask questions later. Elena felt her heart sink as she watched the Admiral walk to the secured terminal at the front of the room. She knew what was coming before he said it. I'm authorizing the deployment of the UES Nemesis. Full military configuration, but with humanitarian markings. Will approach their world under the pretense of offering aid while maintaining the capability to neutralize any threat they might pose. Sir, Elena said, her voice barely above a whisper, you're talking about sending a warship disguised as a rescue vessel. Admiral Chun turned to face her, his expression harder than steel. I'm talking about making sure that humanity's first contact with a physically superior alien species doesn't become our last contact with anyone. The orders were cut that same day. The Nemesis, one of humanity's most advanced dreadnoughts, would be retrofitted with false humanitarian markings. Its cargo holds would carry real medical supplies and evacuation pods, but hidden beneath would be weapon systems that could level cities and atmospheric processors designed for terraforming or, in this case, the opposite. Elena stayed in the conference room long after everyone else had left. She stared at the screen showing the Kethver signal, still repeating every 12 hours like a prayer that no one was listening to. The alien voice spoke of friendship and knowledge. It spoke of 12 million souls waiting for salvation. It spoke of a dying world and a species facing extinction, and humanity's response was to send them. Death disguised as hope. As Elena finally gathered her things to leave, she couldn't shake the feeling that this decision would haunt humanity for generations to come. They had been given the chance to be the heroes in someone else's story, and instead, they had chosen to be the monsters in their own. The Nemesis would launch within. The weak, carrying with it not just weapons and deception, but the weight of humanity's first failure as a spacefaring civilization. They were about to learn that sometimes the real monsters aren't the ones with claws and fangs. They're the ones who choose fear over compassion when it matters most. Outside the underground facility, the stars continued to shine, unaware that humanity had just taken its first step down a path that would lead them into darkness among the cosmos. Captain James Morrison stood in his quarters aboard the UES Nemesis, holding the sealed orders that would change everything. The red wax seal bore the mark of Earth's highest military command. He had carried similar orders before, but never ones that felt this heavy in his hands. The ship had been in space for 3 weeks now, and his crew still believed they were on a rescue mission. Every morning they checked the medical supplies. Every evening they ran diagnostics on the evacuation pods. They were good people doing what they thought was good work. Morrison broke the seal and spread the documents across his desk. The real mission parameters stared back at him in cold, clinical language. Words like strategic elimination and threat, neutralization filled pages that should have been talking about refugee assistance and humanitarian aid, hidden in the Nemesis cargo holds beneath layers of legitimate medical equipment or weapons that could glass an entire planet. Atmospheric processors that could strip the air from a world in days rather than heal it. And his crew, half of them weren't the doctors and aid workers they appeared to be. They were military specialists trained in planetary warfare, disguised as humanitarians. Morrison sat down heavily in his chair. 25 years in the service? And he had never been asked to lie to his own people on this scale. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Come in. Dr. Lisa Chun entered, carrying a tablet full of xenobiological data. She had been analyzing the Kethver transmissions since they left Earth orbit, preparing for what she thought would be humanity's first peaceful contact with an alien species. Captain, I wanted to show you something interesting about the Kethver culture, she said, her eyes bright with excitement. Their mathematical systems, their artistic expressions, they're incredibly sophisticated. This isn't a savage species. They've evolved beyond their predatory origins. Morrison looked at her enthusiasm and felt something twist in his stomach. Dr. Chun was one of Earth's brightest minds, a woman who had dedicated her life to the dream of meeting other intelligent life. And he was about to use her research to help destroy the very beings she hoped to befriend. That's good to know, Doctor, he managed. James, can I speak freely? She asked, using his first name the way she did when they were off duty. They had known each other for 5 years, ever since her first deep space assignment. Of course. Some of the crew are asking questions about our cargo manifests. The weight distribution doesn't match what's listed in our official logs. And there are sections of the ship that require security clearance that some of our medical staff don't have. She paused, studying his face. Is there something you're not telling us? Morrison felt the weight of the sealed orders pressing down on him. Every instinct he had as a commanding officer told him to maintain operational security. But looking at Dr. Chun, seeing the trust in her eyes, made him feel like the worst kind of traitor. The mission parameters are classified, Lisa. You know that. She nodded slowly, but he could see the doubt creeping into her expression. Of course, I want to make sure we're prepared for what we're about to do. First contact with an alien species? This is the most important moment in human history. After she left, Morrison poured himself a drink and stared out at the stars streaming past his viewport. In 2 weeks, they would reach Zarian Prime. In 2 weeks, he would have to decide whether to follow orders that violated everything he had sworn to protect, or commit treason against his own species. The next morning brought more complications. Chief Engineer Rodriguez appeared at Morrison's door with a face full of confusion and anger. Captain, I need to talk to you about the atmospheric processors. Morrison felt his blood turn cold. What about them? I've been running diagnostics on our terraforming equipment, getting ready to help stabilize the Kethver homeworld. But sir, these machines ... Rodriguez shook his head. These aren't healing processors. The chemical configurations, the power requirements, these are designed to strip atmosphere, not restore it. Morrison closed the door behind Rodriguez and activated the privacy screens. What exactly are you saying? I'm saying that if we deployed these machines on Zarian Prime, we wouldn't be saving the planet. We'd be finishing what the environmental collapse started. These processors would make their world uninhabitable within days. The two men stared at each other in the dim lighting of Morrison's quarters. Rodriguez had been with him for 3 years, a man whose integrity was beyond question. A man who had just discovered that his captain was planning to commit genocide. Captain, please tell me I'm wrong about this. Please tell me there's an explanation that doesn't involve us murdering 12 million innocent beings. Morrison wanted to lie. Every fiber of his training told him to maintain operational security, to keep the mission intact. But looking at Rodriguez, seeing the horror and betrayal in his face, Morrison found he couldn't do it. The committee believes the Kethver pose a long-term threat to human expansion, Morrison said quietly. Their physical capabilities, their potential for violence, the decision was made that the risk was too great. Rodriguez stepped backward as if he had been slapped. A threat? Captain, have you read Dr. Chun's reports? These beings have evolved beyond violence. They're asking for our help, and we're planning to stab them in the back. The mineral deposits on their homeworld are the largest ever discovered, Morrison continued, hating himself with every word. Rare earth elements that could power human civilization for 1,000 years, with the Kethver gone. With the Kethver dead, you mean? Rodriguez's voice was barely controlled. You're talking about committing genocide for mining rights. Morrison poured another drink, his hands shaking slightly. I didn't make this decision. I'm following orders. Orders to lie to our own crew. Orders to murder an entire species under the pretense of helping them. Rodriguez moved toward the door, then stopped. What happened to us, Captain? When did we become the monsters in someone else's story? That night, Morrison couldn't sleep. He walked the corridors of his ship, looking at his crew as they worked their shifts. Engineer Thompson was calibrating the medical bay equipment, believing he was preparing to save lives. Lieutenant Park was reviewing evacuation procedures. Thinking she was about to become part of the greatest rescue operation in human history, they trusted him. They trusted their mission. They trusted that humanity was better than this. In the common area, Dr. Chun was showing a group of junior officers her analysis of HFY poetry. The alien verses spoke of hope and perseverance, of a species that had learned to find beauty even as their world died around them. Listen to this passage, Dr. Chun was saying. It translates roughly to, when the stars grow cold and the worlds grow silent, still we sing, for in our song lives the memory of what was and the hope of what might be. She looked up at her audience. This is a species that chooses hope over despair. They're going to be incredible to work with. Morrison turned away before anyone could see the expression on his face. 2 days later, Dr. Chun found the real mission files she had been working. Laid in the computer core, cross-referencing the HFY linguistic patterns with their atmospheric data, when she stumbled across a directory that should have been encrypted. Her security clearance was high enough to access it, but something told her she shouldn't. She accessed it anyway. The truth hit her like a physical blow. Weapons specifications, atmospheric warfare protocols, population elimination strategies, plans to strip mine Zarian Prime once its inhabitants were dead. She sat in the dark computer core for hours, reading through humanity's first genocide manual. When she finally stood up, her legs were shaking so badly she could barely walk. Morrison found her in his quarters 3 hours later. The classified files spread across his desk like an accusation. They trusted us, she whispered, her voice broken. The HFY sent us their location, their population centers, everything we'd need to help them. And we're going to use it to kill them all. Morrison had no words left. The deception had unraveled, and there was no putting it back together. Outside his viewport, the stars continued their ancient dance, unaware that humanity was about to cross a line from which there might be no return. The Nemesis dropped out of hyperspace with a shudder that ran through every deck. Captain Morrison felt it in his bones as he stood on the bridge, watching the viewscreen flicker to life. What appeared before them made even the most hardened. Crew members fall silent. Zarian Prime hung in space like a wounded animal, still breathing but barely alive. The planet that should have been blue and green was painted in shades of brown and gray. Dead oceans stretched across continents that looked like open wounds. The polar ice caps had melted away completely, leaving behind scarred land that would never see snow again. "My God," whispered Navigator Torres, her voice barely audible. "What happened here?" Dr. Chun moved closer to the science station, her fingers dancing across the controls as she pulled up atmospheric readings. Environmental collapse. Complete ecosystem failure. The oxygen levels are dropping by the hour. She looked up at Morrison with eyes full of pain. "Captain, this planet has maybe 6 months left before it becomes completely uninhabitable." Morrison stared at the dying world and felt something crack inside his chest. The HFY hadn't been lying. They really were facing extinction. Their desperate calls for help weren't part of some elaborate invasion plan. They were the last words of a species watching their home die around them. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," Communications Officer Williams announced. "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was deep and resonant, carrying an accent that no human throat could produce. But the translation matrix worked perfectly, and the words came through crystal clear. "Human vessel, this is Ambassador Krelthax of the HFY Council. We welcome you to our dying world. Your arrival brings us hope that we thought was lost forever." Morrison found his voice after a moment. "This is Captain Morrison of the UES Nemesis. We received your distress call. Captain Morrison, our people have been preparing for your arrival. We have constructed temporary shelters near our primary spaceport. We have organized our population into manageable groups for evacuation. We know you have risked much to come this far to help us." The shame hit Morrison like a physical blow. They had prepared. They had organized. They had trusted completely that humanity would save them, and they had spent precious time and resources getting ready for rescue. Instead of trying to save themselves, Dr. Chun stepped forward. "Ambassador, this is Dr. Chun, xenobiologist. We Would like permission to send down survey teams to assess your situation and determine how best to help. Of course, Dr. Chun. We have prepared landing coordinates and assigned our best scientists to work with your teams. We have much to share with you, our knowledge, our culture, our friendship. In return, we ask only for passage to safety. After the transmission ended, the bridge fell silent again. Morrison looked around at his crew and saw his own guilt reflected in their faces. These weren't monsters or invaders. These were people different from humans, yes, but people nonetheless, facing the end of everything they had ever known. Deploy the survey shuttles, Morrison ordered, his voice rough. I want full atmospheric and geological reports. As the shuttles launched toward the planet's surface, Morrison retreated to his ready room. The real mission files lay scattered across his desk like evidence of a crime he hadn't committed yet. But sitting here, looking at this dying world, those orders felt like a murder weapon placed in his hands. Dr. Chun's voice came through his communicator. Captain, you need to see this. Morrison made his way to the observation deck, where Dr. Chun had set up a detailed scanner array. The screens showed high-resolution images of the Kethver cities, and what Morrison saw there changed everything he thought he knew about these beings. The architecture was breathtaking. Spires that seemed to grow from the ground like living things, connected by bridges that looked more like art than engineering. Even in their dying state, the cities showed a beauty that spoke of minds capable of creating wonder. Look at this, Dr. Chun said, pointing to one of the screens. This is their capital city. The buildings are designed to work with their environment, not against it. And see these patterns? They're not just decorative, they're mathematical sequences that show up in their art, their music, their literature. She switched to another view. And this is a Kethver school. Even now, with their world dying, they're still teaching their children, still preserving their knowledge and culture. Morrison watched small figures moving through the school. Corridors. Kethver young ones, learning from their elders even as their planet crumbled around them. The image hit him harder than any weapon ever could. There's more, Dr. Chun continued. I've been analyzing their cultural transmissions for weeks now. James, these people went through what they call the Great Awakening about 1,000 years ago. They transformed themselves from a predator species into something beautiful. She pulled up recordings of Kethver music, hauntingly beautiful melodies that seemed to capture both sorrow and hope in the same notes. Then came their poetry, verses that spoke of choosing love over violence, wisdom over strength, understanding over conquest. They could have used their physical advantages to become a warrior race, Dr. Chun said. Instead, they chose to become philosophers, artists, scientists. They chose to evolve beyond what evolution made them. Morrison felt like he was drowning. Every piece of evidence pointed to the same conclusion. The Kethver were everything humanity should aspire to be, and he was about to destroy them. A new transmission came in from the planet's surface. This time, it wasn't Ambassador Krelthax. It was a Kethver scientist identified as Dr. Veltara. Dr. Chun, I hope I may speak with you directly. I have studied your species' mathematical principles that you included in your communications. Your approach to quantum mechanics is fascinating, though quite different from our own. Dr. Chun's face lit up. Dr. Veltara, it would be an honor. I've been studying your atmospheric processing techniques. How did you manage to keep your cities habitable for this long? What followed was a conversation between two scientists that transcended species barriers. They talked about fusion power and atmospheric chemistry, about theoretical physics and biological adaptation. Morrison listened as two brilliant minds found common ground across the vast gulf of evolution and space, but it was Dr. Veltara's final words that broke something inside Morrison's chest. Dr. Chun, your species is young. We understand the fear that comes with meeting those who appear different, who seem dangerous. We were predators once, yes. But we learned something that changed everything. True strength doesn't come from what you can destroy. It comes from what you choose to create. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice carried the weight of 1,000 years of wisdom. We have waited so long to meet another intelligent species. Not to conquer or consume, but to share. To learn, to grow together among the stars. Your arrival here is the answer to prayers we have sung for generations. After the transmission ended, Morrison stood alone on the observation deck, staring at the dying world below. The Kethver were down there right now, preparing for their salvation. They were organizing evacuation groups, sharing resources, comforting their young ones with stories of the new homes they would find among the stars and hidden in the cargo holds. Beneath his feet were the instruments of their extinction. Morrison thought about Admiral Chion's words back on Earth about protecting humanity first and asking questions later. About the mineral wealth that lay beneath Zarian Prime's dying surface. About the fear that had driven Earth's leaders to choose genocide over diplomacy. But looking at this world, listening to these people, Morrison began to understand something that the committee back on Earth had missed. The real threat to humanity wasn't the Kethver's physical strength or their evolutionary advantages. The real threat was what humanity might become if they went through with this mission. The real danger was losing their souls in the pursuit of safety, becoming the very monsters they feared others might be on the planet below. 12 million Kethver continued to prepare for their rescue, unaware that their saviors had come not with open hands but with hidden knives. Chief Engineer Rodriguez wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished installing the third atmospheric processor. 2 days on the surface of Zarian Prime had shown him things that would haunt his dreams forever. The Kethver weren't the monsters everyone back on Earth had imagined. They were dying people clinging to hope. The processor hummed to life, its blue lights indicating full activation. Rodriguez stepped back and felt his stomach turn. Something was wrong. The energy readings were all backwards. Instead of cleaning the air, this machine was designed to poison it. He pulled out his scanner and ran a full diagnostic. The numbers that came back made his blood freeze. This wasn't an atmospheric healer. This was a weapon disguised as salvation. In 72 hours, these machines would strip every molecule of breathable air from Zarian Prime. No, Rodriguez whispered, his hands shaking as he checked the readings again. The same results came back. The same horrible truth. Behind him, a Kethver technician named Threlvik approached. The alien stood nearly 8 feet tall, with muscles that could crush steel, but his eyes held only gratitude and kindness. Engineer Rodriguez, your machines work perfectly. Already, our air quality monitors show improvement in this sector. Our children are breathing easier for the first time in months. Rodriguez looked at Threlvik and felt like throwing up. The Kethver had detected the initial atmospheric changes and interpreted them as healing. They didn't realize that in 3 days those same changes would kill them all. Threlvik, I need to return to my ship immediately. Of course, my friend. Thank you for bringing us hope. The shuttle ride back to the Nemesis felt like the longest journey of Rodriguez's life. He clutched his scanner data, knowing that he held proof of humanity's greatest crime. When he reached the ship, he went straight to Captain Morrison's quarters. Morrison was sitting at his desk, staring at reports from the surface teams. The captain looked like he hadn't slept in days. Captain, we have a problem, a big one. Rodriguez placed his scanner on Morrison's desk and showed him the readings. Sir, the atmospheric processors aren't healing Zarian Prime. They're finishing the job. In 72 hours, every living thing on that planet will be dead. Morrison stared at the data, and Rodriguez watched his captain's face go through a dozen different emotions. Shock, denial, horror, and finally, a terrible understanding. Rodriguez, I need you to listen to me very carefully. What you've discovered, it's classified at the highest levels. Classified? Rodriguez stepped backward. Captain, there are 12 million people down there. They're trusting us to save them, and we're murdering them instead. The decision was made by people far above my rank. The Kethver pose a long-term threat to human expansion. Their physical capabilities, their potential for violence. Have you talked to them? Rodriguez interrupted. Have you spent time with them like I have? Captain, these people couldn't hurt a fly if they wanted to. They've evolved beyond violence. They choose peace over war, wisdom over strength. Morrison poured himself a drink with shaking hands. It doesn't matter what they are now. It matters what they could become. The committee believes the risk is too great. Rodriguez felt the world spinning around him. And the mineral deposits? I suppose those have nothing to do with this decision? Morrison's silence was answer enough. I can't be part of this, Rodriguez said quietly. I won't be part of genocide. If you interfere with this mission, you'll be committing treason against the human species. Rodriguez looked at his captain, a man he had served under for 3 years, a man he had trusted with his life. And if I don't interfere, I'll be committing treason against everything it means to be human. That night, Rodriguez made a decision that would change everything. He sat in his quarters composing an encrypted message that he knew would destroy his career and possibly his life. But looking at the scanner data, thinking about Threlvik's grateful smile, he knew he had no choice. He sent the message directly to the Kethver leadership. Meanwhile, 3 decks away, Dr. Chun was having her own crisis. She had been working closely with Dr. Veltara for 2 days now, sharing scientific knowledge and building what she thought was the foundation of interspecies cooperation. Dr. Chun, came Veltara's voice through the communication array, I wanted to thank you for the atmospheric data you shared. Our analysis shows that your processors are working exactly as designed. But I must ask, why do the energy patterns suggest a delayed activation sequence? Dr. Chun frowned at her screen. Delayed activation? I'm not sure I understand. The machines your people have installed, they appear to be building toward a much larger energy release in approximately 60 hours. Is this part of the healing process? Dr. Chun's blood turned cold. She had been monitoring the processors from orbit, but she hadn't been looking for delayed activation sequences. She pulled up the diagnostic data that Rodriguez had been sending and ran it through her analysis programs. What she found made her legs give out. The atmospheric processes were operating exactly as Dr. Veltara had described. They were building toward a massive energy release that would poison Zarian Prime's atmosphere completely. In 60 hours, the planet would become a tomb. Dr. Chun ran through the ship's corridors, her heart pounding. She found Morrison in the observation lounge, staring down at the planet below. James, please tell me there's an explanation for this. She thrust her tablet at him, showing the processor analysis. Please tell me we're not about to commit genocide. Morrison took the tablet and looked at the data he had hoped she would never see. When he looked up, his eyes were filled with a pain she had never seen before. Lisa, sit down. No, I want you to explain to me why our atmospheric processors are designed to kill instead of heal. I want you to explain why we lied to the Kethver about our intentions. Morrison told her everything. The committee's fears, the mineral deposits, the decision to eliminate the Kethver threat before it could develop. As he spoke, Dr. Chun felt her faith in humanity crumble piece by piece. They trusted us, she whispered when he finished. Veltara has been sharing her life's work with me. She's been telling me about her children, her hopes for their future among the stars. And all this time, we've been planning to murder her family. The decision was made above my level, Morrison said weakly. The decision was made by humans. By our species, by us. Dr. Chun stood up, her hands clenched into fists. And you could have chosen not to follow those orders. If I had refused, they would have sent someone else. Someone who might not have any qualms about what we're doing. Dr. Chun stared at him for a long moment. You're right. They would have sent someone else? Someone without a conscience? Someone who could sleep at night knowing they had committed the greatest crime in human history. She turned to leave, then stopped. I'm going to tell them, James. I'm going to warn the Kethver about what we're really here to do. If you do that, you'll be committing treason. Dr. Chun laughed, but there was no humor in it. Treason? Against who? Against a species that murders innocent refugees? Against a government that chooses genocide over diplomacy? She looked back at Morrison with eyes full of tears and rage. Maybe it's time someone committed treason against that kind of humanity. Hour later, Rodriguez's encrypted warning reached Ambassador Krelfax. The Kethver leader read the message 3 times before its full meaning sank in. The humans hadn't come to save them. They had come to finish what the environmental collapse had started. Krelfax called an emergency session of the Kethver Council. The massive alien leaders gathered in their dying capital, listening as their ambassador read the human engineers' warning aloud. "The atmospheric processors are weapons," Krelfax said, his deep voice carrying across the council chamber. "In less than 60 hours, they will complete the destruction of our world." The council chamber fell silent. These beings, who had evolved beyond violence, who had chosen wisdom over warfare, sat in stunned disbelief as they realized that their saviors had come to destroy them. Elder Morthal, the oldest member of the council, spoke first. "We could stop them. Our physical abilities far exceed theirs. We could overpower their ship, take control of their weapons." "And then what?" asked Counselor Zafara. "Become the monsters they fear us to be?" "Prove that their decision to destroy us was correct?" The debate that followed would determine not just the fate of the Kethver, but the future of interspecies relations throughout the galaxy. They had been betrayed by the first aliens they had ever encountered. Their trust had been used as a weapon against them, but the Kethver had learned something over their 1,000 years of civilization that humanity had apparently forgotten. They had learned that how you respond to betrayal defines who you are more than the betrayal itself. As the council debated their response, Dr. Chun sent her own message to Dr. Veltara, warning her friend about humanity's true intentions. The scientist who had dreamed of peaceful contact between species found herself becoming a traitor to her own kind in order to save the beings she had come to respect and love. The lines were drawn. In less than 60 hours, the atmospheric processors would complete their deadly work. The Kethver had to decide whether to fight back, flee, or find a third option that no one had considered. The Nemesis felt like a ship at war with itself. In the corridors, crew members who had served together for years now looked at each other with suspicion and fear. Word of the mission's true nature had spread through the ship like wildfire, splitting the crew into 2 camps that could barely stand to be in the same room. Dr. Chun stood in the main conference room, facing half the ship's crew. Behind her, the view screen showed Zarian Prime, its dying surface now counting down its final hours. The atmospheric processors had 18 hours left before they would complete their deadly work. "We have a choice to make," Dr. Chun said, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. "We can follow orders that will make us murderers, or we can do what's right and save 12 million innocent lives." Across the room, Security Chief Williams crossed his arms. "What you're talking about is mutiny, Doctor. Treason against the human species. Is it treason to refuse to commit genocide?" Rodriguez stepped forward, his engineering uniform wrinkled from 2 sleepless nights. "I've been working alongside the Kethver for days. They're not monsters, they're people." "Good people." "Good people who could tear you apart with their bare hands," Williams shot back. "The committee made this decision for a reason. These aliens are too dangerous to let live." Lieutenant Park, who had been silent until now, spoke up. "I've read Dr. Chen's reports. The Kethver haven't shown any aggressive behavior. They've shared their knowledge, their culture, their resources. How exactly are they dangerous?" "You're thinking with your heart instead of your head," Williams replied. "What happens in 50 years when they decide they don't need humanity anymore? What happens when they decide they want our worlds for themselves?" Dr. Chun pulled up a recording on the main screen. It was Dr. Veltara, the Kethver scientist she had been working with. The alien's face filled the view screen, her large eyes reflecting an intelligence that no one could deny. "Dr. Chun," the recording began, "I wanted to share something with you before we begin our evacuation. This is a piece of our history that we rarely discuss with outsiders, but I feel you should know." The recording shifted to show ancient Kethver artwork depicting their species' violent past. "1,000 years ago, we were what you fear we might become. We were conquerors, destroyers, beings who used our strength to dominate and kill. But we learned something that changed everything. The artwork changed, showing Kethver philosophers and teachers. We learned that true evolution isn't about becoming stronger or faster or more deadly. True evolution is about choosing to be better than what nature made you. We chose wisdom over warfare, understanding over conquest. We chose to evolve our souls, not just our bodies. The recording returned to Dr. Veltara S. face. Your species is young, Dr. Chun. You will face this same choice someday. I hope you choose better than we did initially. I hope you choose to become more than your fears. The conference room fell silent. Even Williams looked shaken by what they had just seen. That's what we're destroying, Dr. Chun said quietly. Not monsters, not conquerors. We're destroying a species that learned to be better than their nature. A species that could teach us how to do the same. Captain Morrison entered the room, looking like he had aged 10 years in the past week. Behind him came several officers loyal to the original mission. I've received new orders from Earth Command, Morrison announced. The mission proceeds as planned. Anyone who interferes will be arrested for treason. Rodriguez laughed bitterly. Arrested by who, Captain? Half your crew won't follow these orders. Morrison's face was hard, but his eyes showed the pain he was trying to hide. Then half my crew will face court-martial when we return to Earth. If we return to Earth, Dr. Chun said. Captain, do you really think we can go home after committing genocide? Do you think we can face our families, our children, knowing what we've done? For a moment, Morrison's mask slipped, and everyone in the room saw the broken man underneath. What choice do we have? If I don't follow these orders, Earth Command will send another ship, one with a captain who won't hesitate. Then let them, Rodriguez said. At least our hands will be clean. The argument was interrupted by an incoming transmission from the planet's surface. Ambassador Krelthax appeared on the view screen, his massive frame somehow managing to look both powerful and gentle at the same time. Captain Morrison, we need to speak. Morrison's voice was barely a whisper. Ambassador, we know about your true mission, Captain. We know about the atmospheric processors and what they will do to our world. Your engineer Rodriguez and Dr. Chun have shown us great courage in warning us of our fate. The bridge crew exchanged glances. Some looked ashamed, others defiant. We could fight you, Krelthax continued. Our physical abilities far exceed yours. We could take your ship, stop your weapons, perhaps even reach your homeworld before you could warn them. But we will not, Morrison found his voice. Why? Because that would make us the monsters you believe us to be? Because violence in response to violence only creates more violence. Because we choose to remain who we have become, even in the face of betrayal. Krelthax paused, and when he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of profound sadness. Instead, we have activated our deep space communication array. We have broadcast this entire exchange, your deception, our response, the truth of what has happened here, to every spacefaring civilization within 100 light years. The impact of those words hit the bridge like a physical blow. Dr. Chun felt her legs give out. Rodriguez grabbed a console for support. Even Morrison stepped backward as if he had been struck. The Galactic Consortium has already responded, Krelthax continued. 12 species that your race has never encountered, civilizations that have watched your development with interest and hope. They have declared humanity a hostile emerging species and have quarantined your solar system. On the main screen, new contacts began appearing. Ships unlike anything in human design arriving from jump points throughout the system. The Nemesis, Earth's most advanced warship, suddenly looked like a child's toy surrounded by titans. No human vessel will be permitted to leave your home system until your species proves it is ready for the responsibilities of interstellar civilization, Krelthax explained. You came here to eliminate a threat? Instead, you have made yourselves the threat that the galaxy must guard against. Communications Officer Williams tried to contact Earth, but found all channels blocked by alien technology far beyond human understanding. My people will be evacuated to a world provided by the Consortium, Krelthax said. Those humans who choose to stay with us, who choose conscience over species loyalty, will be welcome among the stars. The rest of you will return to Earth to explain to your leaders how first contact with a peaceful species became a tale of deception and attempted genocide. Dr. Chun stood up slowly. Ambassador, we want to stay. Some of us want to stay. And help your people, Krelthax nodded gravely. Dr. Chun, Rodriguez, Lieutenant Park, and others who have shown honor in this dark time, you will be remembered as the humans who chose correctly when it mattered most. You will be the proof that not all of your species shares their leader's fear. Over the next hour, the crew of the Nemesis made their choices. Dr. Chun gathered her research and prepared to leave with the Kethver. Rodriguez shut down the atmospheric processes, saving Zarian Prime from immediate destruction. Lieutenant Park and 15 other crew members chose exile from their own species rather than return to a Earth that would celebrate genocide. Captain Morrison remained on his bridge, watching as consortium ships began evacuating the Kethver to their new home. The aliens who could have conquered his ship with their bare hands instead showed mercy to the species that had tried to destroy them. Captain, Dr. Chun said, appearing at his side one last time, you could still come with U.S.? You could still choose to be better than your orders? Morrison looked at her with eyes full of regret. Someone has to go back and tell Earth what we've become. Someone has to warn them that the galaxy is watching and we've already failed our first test. As the evacuation continued, Morrison thought about the reports he would have to write, the explanations he would have to give. Earth's leaders had sent him to eliminate a threat and claim a prize. Instead, he was returning with news that humanity itself had become the threat the galaxy needed to guard against. The Kethver had survived. They would build new lives on a new world, carrying with them the story of the species that chose fear over friendship, genocide over growth, and scattered among them would be a handful of humans who had chosen conscience over country, proving that even in humanity's darkest hour some light remained. The Nemesis limped home to a solar system that had become a prison, carrying the weight of humanity's first and greatest failure among the stars. The species that had dreamed of conquering the galaxy had instead conquered only their own future, trading the cosmos for the minerals of a dead world. In the end, the real Death World hadn't been Zarian Prime, it had been the choice humanity made when faced with beings different from themselves. And that choice would echo through the galaxy for generations to come.